first starting out doing eyelash extensions, it can be really tricky to decide exactly which tweezers are right for you. After all, you go on any lash website and there are 5 different variants of isolation tweezers. So which should you pick for yourself? One of the most common questions that our customer service team are asked is, which tweezers should I buy? And while that's quite a simple answer in theory, you can buy any pair of tweezers, you might have a few more questions about the subtle differences between the different shapes of each isolation pair of tweezers. So we'll go through isolation first and we'll get to volume afterwards. So when it comes to isolation tweezers or tweezers for classic eyelash extensions, you have 5 different shapes available. Some companies may have more, some may have fewer. I'm talking obviously specifically about our own. So these are your 5 isolation pairs of tweezers. The really great thing about each of these is that they can be used for isolation and for picking up classic lashes. So the difference is primarily the shape and which of those shapes you feel most comfortable holding. So you just really, the best way to get the idea of that is just to hold them and to practice with them. And if they turn out not to be right for you, then maybe keep hold of them as backups or get in touch with our customer service team and see if you can exchange them for a different shape. So let's have a closer look one by one. So let's start with our straight tweezers for isolation. So these are characterised just simply for their straight shape. They have a very, very fine tip. So a lot of lash techs, even if they don't use these particular tweezers for picking up or for isolation, they'll keep hold of them just for separating stickies because they're very, very fine a point. They're much easier to be a bit more precise with. So we'll talk about these 2 pairs of tweezers together just because they're very similar in shape. You'll notice that the angled tweezers are slightly more curved than the pointed tweezers. Again, this just comes down to personal preference. Another difference is that the angled tweezers are just a little bit thicker in the body than the pointed tweezers. You'll be using these in a very similar way. For isolation, you want the points angled downwards, so angled towards the eye patch. Same with these, but for picking, turn them up the other way. This is so that it's easier to get that 90-degree angle when we're picking our lashes. Just for demonstrative purposes, holding them up the other way is possible, but is a little bit less comfortable. For me personally, I mean, you might find that you have a different preference, but that's why there are so many different shapes available. Next up is the curved isolation tweezers. Now these are a lot of lash techs' favourites for isolation simply because of the shape of them. It allows you to hold them more comfortably and put a little bit less pressure on the eye patch when you come to isolate your client's lashes. Again, when you come to pick up the lashes, flip them around so that you're coming in at this angle. This is going to feel much more natural when you come to pick up your extensions. And last but not least, when we're looking at isolation tweezers and tweezers for classic lashes, these are your multifunctional tweezers. So the reason that I've left these until last is because you can use them for volume as well. So regardless of what other tweezers you pick, these are always great to have on hand. If you are unlucky enough to drop either your isolation tweezers or your volume tweezers, having these available is going to be a lifesaver. These are also really great if you're using pre-made fans or easy fanning lashes, just because they have that thinner tip, so it's much easier to pick up those lashes that are already kind of together at the base. Holding them, again, for picking your classic lashes, you're going to want to angle them so that the curves downwards. When it comes to volume tweezers, again, there are multiple shapes on the market, and again, it comes down to personal preference. The main thing to take away is that if you are making volume fans, you will need volume tweezers. So what makes these different to your other tweezers that we've just gone through is that they are specifically made for Russian volume techniques and fan creation. So they are thicker in the foot, they are sturdier, they have much stronger grip. So if you are trying to use, and I have seen lash techs successfully use, for example, curved tweezers for fans, they're not always the sturdiest, so they're not always going to give you that great fan success that you dream of. So that's where volume fans come in. Again, you can use your multifunctional tweezers for smaller fans, so 2D, 3D maximum. Again, this comes down to the grip and the shape of them, and also the length of the foot. If we compare the feet of these, the foot of the multifunctional is much smaller than of the volume tweezers. So the main differences again between these are going to be the shape. You'll notice as well that the regular volume tweezers are slightly longer than the fine tipped volume tweezers. So it may be that you have slightly smaller hands and you find it easier to use the fine tip tweezers. It might just be that you prefer the angle that you hold them. You'll notice that this is almost a 90-degree angle, whereas this one's more of a 45. So when you're comparing the angle that you hold your hand at to make a fan, you might find you prefer one over the other. Fine tip tweezers are going to be a little bit better for you if you're making larger fans as well, because they're slimmer. So it's much easier to pick up a larger fan with a finer tip than it is with a thicker foot. And as well as that, if you're using shorter lashes in your fans, you are more likely to find that the fine tip is going to be better for you than the regular volume tweezers. But again, try them out, see which one is your favourite and go from there.